How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samach, Daf 60 of Masechta Nazir. Friends, 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 friends. What can I tell you about Daf 60, man? I feel like I haven't said this in a while, but run. It's not push it. It's not push it. It's not push it. Remember the other day when I was talking about a sugya that was not pashut, and I had to convince myself to that I can do it? Well, this is basically that on steroids. Okay, here we go. We're going to start off from Tes Amud Beis at the Mishnah towards the bottom, 5-6 lines from the bottom. Nazir shayitami b'safik umucha b'safik ocha b'kachim achashishim yom v'shosu yain mitami l'meisim achar mei v'esim yom. Oh, this was taka, this exact Mishnah that we had quoted the other day that I was getting all cranky about. So let's read it again. So if you have a Nazir who's not sure if he's Tami Tumas Hameis, and he's not sure if he's a Mitzorah. I was talking to my father today, and I mentioned, I was in the middle of the sugya and how difficult it was. And Taka said, what does it mean that you have a mitzorah, a suffix mitzorah? I didn't know the answer. What does it mean you have a suffix mitzorah? I don't know. But I guess it's possible. Maybe, I don't know. What happens if the nega doesn't spread? Then you just assume that it's tummy or something? I don't know. Anyways, whatever. I'm talking about suffix tsaras. What do you want me to tell you? So if you have this guy, and he's a Nazir, and he's not sure, maybe he's tummy tumas hameis, maybe he has tsaras, so then ocha b'kachim achashishim yom, he can eat korbanis after 60 days, v'shosiyanu mitami l'meisim achar mei v'esim yom, and he can basically his Naziris is over after 120 days. He could drink wine, he could be, become Tamei Meis after 120 days. Okay, fine. We explained it the other day, but it's going to come up. It's going to come up again, obviously, today. That, of course, if you have a fellow who's a Nazir, who's not allowed to shave his head, but he gets tsaras, so of course, the shavings, the full body shaves of the mitzorah overrides, as we've learned, the prohibition against a Nazir cutting his hair, right? If you have a Nazir who's not allowed to cut his hair, but he gets tsaras, and part of the purification process of tsaras is that he needs to shave all the hair of his body to a full body shave, so that overrides the Naziris. And we said any time that he has tsaras or anytime that he has tsaras or is kind of in between full body shaves, because of course he has to shave his body twice, it does not count towards the Naziris. But if he's not sure if he's a mitzorah, so then he can't just do the full body shaves out of when he's a suffix. If he's a Nazir. If he's a Nazir and he's definitely a Mitzorah, so then he could do the Mitzorah full body shaves. It overrides his prohibition against cutting his hair as a Mitzorah, as a Nazir. But if he's not sure if he's a Mitzorah, and therefore he's not sure if he needs to do these shaves, that does not override the Nazirus. And therefore, that's why it gets so spread out, because he can basically, he can only, basically has to be spread out over 30-day periods, assuming that it's a default 30-day Nazir experience, right? So if he's not sure, so he can only kind of shave for the first time after 30 days, and then for the second time after another 30 days, and then those are for the two tsaras ones, and then for the Tamei Meis, it can only be after 90 days, and then finally he could wrap up his all of his korbanos and everything after only 120 days, but we're gonna get into this today. Okay, fine. So now, okay. Gewaldig. Should I tell you about my new diet? Yeah, maybe I'll tell you about my new diet so that maybe if I tell you about my new diet, I'll have more, motivation to stick to it because I already told people about it. So my new diet is that I'm going to eat an apple for breakfast, and I'm going to make salad for lunch, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, olive oil, and salt for lunch, and then dinner is soup and rice. I would like to just stick to that indefinitely. Apple for breakfast, salad for lunch, soup and rice for dinner. But because of that, I'm like a little bit not focused right now. But I hope that I'll get used to it. I've been doing it for the past 2 days. Well, for the past day and a half. It's the afternoon right now. Okay. Okay. After that little, avoidance tactic. What's it called? Avoidance tactic? Yeah, my brain isn't working totally. But what's it called when you like push something off? A pushing off tactic? A procrastination tactic. Says the Gemara, when do we say that it's 60 days and 100 days, 20 days, 120 days respectively? That's when we're talking about a 30-day Nazir experience, right? So basically after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, but after 60 days he can eat kodshim because he's at that point the Mitzorah stuff is behind him. After 120 days, all the Nazir stuff is behind him, so he can then eat wine and become tmemes. Drink wine, become tmemes. By the way, I think I'm probably gonna be confusing like Mitzorah and Nazir and all sorts of stuff, but hopefully I will keep on catching myself and correcting myself when that happens. But what if it's not a 30-day Nazir experience? What if it's a 12-month? What if it's a 1-year Nazir experience? Well then, you just multiply it by a year rather than by 30 days. So then it would be, you can eat kodshim after 2 years, and you can drink wine and become tmemes after 4 years. Okay. Hopefully there won't be any sunflower people today, although it's a Friday, so definitely a good possibility of sunflower people. But okay, for now they're preoccupied doing other things like maybe buying sunflower seeds. So now we teach that he shaves 4 times. Okay, let's go back to the case of 30-day Nazir experience. So he shaves 4 times, right? After day 30, 60, 90, 120. Tiglachas Rishona, maybe tziporim v'chatas of ve'olas behemo, shnia maybe chatas of ve'olas behemo, shlishis maybe chatas of ve'olas behemo, revius maybe korban tyre. Okay. After day 30, he brings, so let's read it inside. Tiglachas Rishona, after day 30, when he's cutting his hair for the first time, maybe tziporim, so he brings birds, the 2 birds, right? A mitzorah, right? As we've said, a mitzorah, as part of his purification process, he does a full body shave twice with a period of at least 7 days between them. For the first of those full body shaves, there are 2 birds involved, right? The Kohen goes and meets the Mitzorah, not in the Beis HaMikdash. The Kohen goes out to where the Mitzorah is and meets him, and they take 2 birds, they kill one, they dip the other one in the blood of the first one, then they free the second one. Fine, Seder. So that whole 2 birds thing would happen on day 30, as well as V'chatas ha'of, as well as Echatas ha'of, and that would be for in case he is not a Mitzorah, but he is a tmemes, right? He is tmemes, in which case he needs to bring a chatas ha'of. Ve'olas behema, and he also brings in olas behema, because if he's neither a mitzorah nor a tmemes, he's just a regular nazir, well then on day 30 he's done with his naziris, and part of what he brings with his naziris is at the end of his naziris is an olas behema, and he brings that as well. And in case, we're going to go through this in a minute, but in a few minutes, everything's slow on this stuff. But in case he's not in case he is tameh with either tzaras or tumas hames, then this olas behema will just be an adava, will just be voluntary. So he makes a stipulation that if he's at the end of his naziris, it's part of his naziris korbanos, but if not, it's just a voluntary offering. Shnia, now when it comes to this day 60, maybe chatas ha'of ve'olas behema. He brings a chatas ha'of because if he's at the end of his if he's at the end of his mitzora thing, so then, right, meaning right, there's no longer. The Gemara is going to explain it. So I'll let the Gemara explain it. Fine. But the second, after day 60, maybe chatas of olas behema. So he brings, he no longer brings the two birds, but he brings the chatas of as well as an olas behema. Shlish is maybe chatas of olas behema. Also on day 90, he would bring chatas of and olas behema. Revi is maybe korban tyre. Now on day 120, he brings the korban, just the regular korbanis that a Nazir tahor brings at the end of his naziris. Now, Omer tiglachas rishona mevi v'chule. So we said that on day 30 he brings two birds, as well as meaning the two birds of the mitzorah, as well as a chatas ha'of and also a olas behema. Now, mimon avshach shapir kamaisi, that however you cut it, these you can't go wrong with this combination of animals and birds. The ivade mitzorahu vilav tomehu. So if he is a mitzorah and he's not tmei meis, so basically he's a nazir who's also a mitzorah, so he's not going to be bringing anything for his naziris, and he's not going to be bringing anything for tumas hameis, meaning he doesn't know what he is, but meaning in the event that he's definitely a mitzorah and he isn't, meaning in the event that it turns out he's a mitzorah and he's not tmei meis, so he needs to bring on day 30, which is the first time he's doing a full body shave, so he's going to bring those two birds, chovaso, right, as he needs to. V'chatas of safek azla l'kvura. Now the chatas of that he's bringing, which there's no reason for it, but he's only bringing it because he's not sure. So then you just bury it, right? You don't eat it, right? Meaning you're not going to be eating this chatas because just in case it's not necessary to be brought because he's a mitzorah and he's not a tmei meis. So you bury the korban, the chatas of. Ve'ola havina dava, and the ola and the ola's behema. There's no need to be bringing it as part of his naziris now because he's a mitzorah, so he's not done with his naziris. So that would just be a voluntary offering. Ulegalcho besof shiva efshar. Now that if we're saying that he's so if we did a full body shave for his first naziris, well, I'm sorry, for his tsaras, you can't then 7 days later do the second full body shave for the tsaras because the dilma lav muchlat hu, because what if he is not actually tamei a mitzorah? Right, if he's not actually a mitzorah, because again, we don't know what he is. And if he's not a mitzorah, right, and if he's not, meaning, we're going to give the first body shave on day 30, right? So 7 days later, we cannot then do the second shaving, because if he was not a mitzorah, but he was a tmei meis, well, in that event, well, then when he shaved on day 30, it was for being a tmei meis, which means that now he needs to start his naziris over again, which means that he's right now a nazir, and therefore on day 37 he would be unable to do his second shaving for mitzorah, out of concern that maybe he's not a mitzorah, but he is a tmei meis, and now he's in the middle of his naziris and he can't cut his hair because he's a nazir. And the Torah says a Nazir can't shave his head. Can't. Okay. Ad melos, until he's done. V'i lav mitzora vadei have v'hu tome. Now, we had discussed what happened if he was a mitzora and not a tmei meis. So then, right, so that's why he's bringing those birds, and the Chatasof would just be brought out of Suffolk and buried, and the Olas Behema would be a Nidava, a voluntary korban. But what if he's not a Mitzorah, but he is Tmei Meis? So in that event, how do these offerings line up? Well, Chatasof Chavaso, so the Chatasof that he's bringing is necessary for his korban, right, his korban tumah of a Tmei Meis. Now, in terms of those two birds that he's bringing on day 30, out of concern that maybe he's a mitzorah, well, that's not a problem of chulin ba'azara, because the kohen goes to the mitzorah. This isn't happening in the Beis Hamikdash, so there's no problem with those birds. Be'olas behema avi nedava. And the ola and the olas behema is just going to be a voluntary offering, because obviously he's not offering the korbanos for Nazirus because he is Tmei Meis. He's not done with his Nazirus yet. V'ilav mitzorahu, v'ilav tamehu. And if he was neither, if he was actually just he was not Tmei Meis and he's not a mitzorah, he's just a regular Nazir the whole time, well then tzipor and avroi komisavdin. So again, the birds are not in the Beis Hamikdash, so there's no problem with chulim ba'azara. Chatas of likvura, and the chatas of is allowed to be brought out of Suffolk, and we're just going to bury it, so there's no problem there. And olas behema havi chovaso, and the olas behema that he's offering is part of his korban nazirus, right? The korbanos that he brings at the end of his nazirus, right? You bring an ola, and this olas behema would be that ola if he wasn't tmei meis or a mitzor. V'iboi v'haboi osham snafrek de gemare. Now, a mitzora, as part of his korbanis, also needs to bring a asham. So what do you do about that? So apparently the suggestion is that the blood, the way that you throw the blood of the asham on the mizbeach is the same way as you would do for a shlamim. So theoretically you should be able to bring an asham for the mitzora, and just make a condition that if he's not a mitzora, then it should just be a voluntary shlamim. So the Gemara says, Reb Shimon look, that would only be according to Reb Shimon, who says that you could do that you'd be able to bring an asham and say, well, if he doesn't need to be offering the asham, so then it should just be a voluntary shlamim. That's specifically the opinion of Reb Shimon, but the rabbis disagree, and therefore that's why we're not bringing an asham. Now, Tiglachas shniya v'shlishis. Now, in terms of the second, so that we just discussed day 30, what happened, the korbanos that he would bring on day 30 in depth. Now, what about the korbanos that he brings on day 60 and on day 90? We said that would be a chatas ha'of and an olas behema. So tiglachas shniya v'shlishis tziporin lo tzarich. Now, for the shaving on day 60 and day 90, we don't need to bring those two birds anymore to ha'ovid, because that would only be for the first full body shave of the mitzora, which was already done on day 30, so there's no need for the two birds anymore. So my ika, so what is there left? Well, Dilma vadai muchlatu. Well, in the event that he was a mitzora, well then chada l'sofek sifro. Well then on day 60, he would have to bring a chatas ha'of, because part of the a mitzora, when he's done, at the very end of everything he has to do as part of his purification process, he brings a chatos, an ola, and an asham. So now a mitzora, if he's poor, he could bring a bird for his chatas and a bird for his ola. So if I understand correctly, we basically tell him to make all of his possessions hefker so that he's poor, and then he could bring a chatas ha'of, and he could bring a chatas ha'of, and zeu. So basically the chatas ha'of that he brings on day 60 is that in case he was a mitzora, and on day 30 he had already did his first full body shave, and and there were those two birds. Now on day 60 he does his second full body shave, and he is offering this chatas ha'of, which would be as part of his korbanos that he has to bring at the end of his mitzorah stuff. V'chada l'safek tumaso. And now on day 90, he brings a right. We said on day okay, fine. We said on day 90 also he would bring a chatas ha'of and a olas behema, because if he was a mitzora as well as tmei meis, then he would need to have brought on day 30 the two birds, on day 60 the Chatas Ha'of for his the end of his Mitzorah. Now on day 90 he has to bring a Chatas Ha'of for being a Tmei Mace. And then in both on day 60 and on day 90 we also bring an Olas Behema for just in case, on day 60 if he was not a Mitzorah but he was a Tmei Mace, well then on day 60 he would be bringing the Olas Behema for the end of his Nazirus. And if he was a Mitzorah but not a Tmei Mace, then on day 90 he would be bringing a Olas Behema as the end of his Nazirus. And in both of those cases he says, look, if this is now the end of my Nazirus, then this Olas Behema should be part of the Korbanos of the end of the Nazirus. But if I'm not at the end of my Nazirus, either because I'm wrapping up I'm still dealing with Tsaras or with Tumas HaMeis, so then this is just a voluntary Ola. Tiglachas Revius, and when it comes to the fourth, on day 120, well then, maybe Korban Taire, then he brings the Korbanis that a Nazir brings at the end of his Nazirus. Umastin, he makes the following stipulation, the Vadai Nazir who, if he was not Tameh at all, if he was not Tameh Tumas HaMeis, and he was not Tameh Tumas with Tsaras, so then that means that on day 30 already, the Olas Behema that he offered was for the end of his Nazirus, right? So V'ivadei Nazir hu, Ola Rishona Chova, well then the initial Ola that he brought on day 30 was part of his Nazirus Korbanos, Vizo Nidava. And what he's offering now on day 120, the Olas Behema that he's offering on day 120 is just voluntary because he was already Yotze with the Olas Behema that he offered on day 30. Tamei Umuchlatu, but if he was both Tamei Tumas HaMeis and a Mitzorah, well then, today on day 20, Ola Rishon and Nedava, all of the earlier Olas were just voluntary. Vizo Chova, today's Ola that he's offering on day 120 is part of his, for his Nazirs. Vizeh Shar Korbano, and together with the Olas Behema, he's also offering the Chatas as well as the Shlomim. Okay. Well, how was that? We just explained all of the korbanis and stuff that a guy who's a Nazir and also maybe a Tmei Mace and maybe a Mitzorah, what he does over time with different korbanos at 30-day increments, assuming a default 30-day Nazir experience. Now, to spice things up, the Gemara kicks it up a notch and says, what if he's definitely Tmei Mace, but maybe a Mitzorah? Or what if he's definitely a Mitzorah, but maybe a Tmei Mace? What if he's definitely a Mitzorah and definitely a Tmei Mace? Right? Then what are the calculations? So now says the Gemara, Tamei Sofik Umuchlat Vadai. So if he's definitely a Mitzorah, and maybe he is and maybe he's definitely a Mitzorah, and maybe he's a Tmei Mace. There's some sunflower people outside, which complicates things a little bit more, because we have the Gemara plus the sunflower people. Tamei Sofik Umuchlat Vadai. So he's definitely a Mitzorah. And as the Mishnah said, that when you're definitely a Mitzorah, so then those full body shaves override the Nazirus, right? The prohibition against shaving your head as a Nazir. So if he's definitely a Mitzorah, and he might be a Tmei Mace, so friends, so let's talk about it outside. So if he's definitely a Mitzorah, so then he can already do the full body shaves override any Nazirus concerns. So already on day 1, he could do his first full body shave. Then he waits 7 days, and he does a second full body shave, as a regular Mitzorah would do. Okay, so that's already, after day 7 already, he's done with his Mitzorah stuff, and once he's done with his Mitzorah stuff, he could already eat Kodshim, right? Fine. Now, we have to be concerned that maybe he's a Tmei Mace. Now, again, he was definitely a Mitzorah, which means that up until day 7, none of it counted towards his Nazirus. Now, he's got to start his Nazirus starting with day 8 for another 30 days. Now, maybe he's a Tmei Mace. Now maybe he's a Tmei Meis, but if he was definitely a Tmei Meis, so then, you would wait 7 days and shave his head. Some sunflower dogs outside. So then, if he was definitely a Tmei Meis, as we're going to learn in a few minutes, maybe like 10 minutes. So then, 7 days later, after he gets sprinkled on and everything, he would shave his head, another time, although he's probably already sprinkled on. But anyways, he shaves his head 7 days later, and then he waits another 30 days. But because we're not sure if he's Tmei Meis, so then he can't shave his head while, out of concern that if he's not a Tmei Meis, then he's a Nazir. So basically, starting from day 8, he needs to wait 30 days as a Nazir. At the end of those 30 days, he can then shave his head just in case he's a Tmei Meis. And if he was a Tmei Meis, so then he now needs to start his Naziris over again, so another 30 days. So basically, starting on day 8, he needs to wait another 60 days. So that would be a total of 67. Let's see if I got that right. So, let me just cheat and skip to the end. Oh no, did I mess that up? Wait, what? Did I mess that up? No, I got it right. Good. Sorry, I just had to look because otherwise the suspense would distract me until we got there. I got it right. So Tamei Safek Umuchlat Vade. So again, if he's possibly a Tmei Meis, but definitely a Mitzorah, so Ochav Kachim Lacha Shmona Yamim. So you can eat Kachim already, start right after 8 days, because if he's definitely a Mitzorah, on day 1 he would do the first full body shave, on day 7 he would do the second, right? He would wait 7 days and then do the next full body shave, and then after that he's done, right? He's done with his Mitzorah stuff, and at that point he can already eat Kachim, right? So you can eat Kachim after 8 days. V'shosa Yayin. And he's done with all of his Naziris 60 days after that, right after 67 days, as we said, because then he has to wait 30 days before he can shave his head for the possibility of him being Tmei Meis, and then he waits another 30 days, for in case he was a Tmei Meis, and that he had to start over his Naziris. So 60 plus, it's 7 plus 30 is 67. Now, what if it's Fakert? Muchlat Safek, what if he may or may not be a Mitzorah, V'tamei Vadai, and he's definitely Tmei Meis. So friends, let's talk this out. So if he's a Nazir, and he's definitely Tmei Meis, but he's possibly a Mitzorah. Okay? So if he's definitely a Tmei Meis, so then he gets sprinkled with para aduma stuff on day 30 and on day 3 and day 7, because Tmei Meis, if he's a Tmei Meis, so then that he shaves his head, right? That overrides the prohibition of a Nazir shaving his head. So then on day 7 he already shaves his head, and I think it's on day 7. But whatever, let's say day 7. So on day 7, meaning, or day 8, but I think it's day 7. So on day 7 he shaves his head. So he can definitely shave his head on day 7, because he's definitely tummy. But the thing is, he might also be a Mitzorah. And if he is a Mitzorah, then that shaving would not be for Tumas HaMeis, it would be for the Tzaras. I don't know why, but the Tzaras takes precedence over Tumas HaMeis. So if he's not so he's definitely Tamei Tumas HaMeis, and he might be a Mitzorah. If he is a Mitzorah, then that first shaving would be for his Tzaras, not for his Tumas HaMeis. Okay. Now, he's definitely a Nazir. He's definitely a Tmei Meis, which means that once he shaves on day 7, he's got to now start over again. And now he's got to he's got to do his Naziris for 30 days. Now, 30 days later, on day 37, he shaves again. Now, if he's not a Mitzorah, if he's only Tmei Meis, so then his Tzara, everything's over. His Naziris is over on day 37. But if he was a Mitzorah, well then, the shaving that he does for being a Mitzorah on day 37 is his second Mitzorah shaving, and he still has not yet done his Nazir Tameh shaving. And if he was in fact a Mitzorah, then none of the 37 days up until now counted towards his Nazirus, which means that now he's got to start his Nazirus, but at the same time, so on day 37 he has to start his Nazirus, but at the same time, if he's a Mitzorah, then that means that he hasn't yet shaved for being a Nazir. I'm sorry, he hasn't yet shaved for being Tmei Meis. He hasn't yet shaved for being Tmei Meis. Now, in that case, he hasn't yet shaved for being a Tmei Meis, so he has to shave for being a Tmei Meis, which would override the Nazirus, but you need to do that with 7 days of growth. Right. A Nazir Tameh needs at least 7 days of hair growth before he can cut his hair. So now he has to wait from day 37. He has to wait 7 days until day 43, I guess. Yeah, I think. Anyway, so now starting from 44. So now he's got to wait another 7 days, and then he could shave his head for being a Tmei Meis. And then he needs to start over his Nazirus, right, in the event that he was both a Mitzorah and a Tmei Meis. So then he needs to start over his Nazirus and do another 30 days from day 44 till day 74. So, so back in the Gemara in like line 6 or something. Muchlat Safek v'tamei vadai. So if he's not sure if he's Mitzorah, but he's definitely Tmei Meis, so ochel b'kodshim lachar shloshim v'shiva yomim v'shos yanim mitam l'meisim lachar shivim v'arba yom. B'diuk, exactly as we said. So he can eat kodshim after 37 days, right? Because on day 7, since he's definitely a Tmei Meis, on day 7 he's shaving his head because he's a Tmei Meis. But at the same time, just in case, right, it's possible he's also a Mitzorah. We don't know. And if he is a Mitzorah, then that shaving would count towards his first Mitzorah shaving. And then on day 37. That then that shaving, if he was a Mitzorah, would be for a second Mitzorah shaving. So at that point he could already eat kodshim. Now, in the event that he was a Mitzorah, so then he still has to shave his head for being a Tmei Meis. So he has to wait 7 days before he could do that. So that's day 44, and then he has to wait another 30 days, because if he's Tmei Meis, then he has to start over again. Now he has to wait another 30 days until day 74. And therefore, from day 74 and on, he can already, he's done with his Nazirus, he could drink wine, become Tmei Meis, fine. Tamei vadei umuchot vadei. If he is definitely, now if he's definitely Tmei Meis, and he's definitely a Mitzorah, well, in that case, on day 1, we can already do his first full body shave for being a Mitzorah. Then he waits, and then 7 days later, he does his second full body shave for being a Mitzorah. Okay. Now, so that's already, 7 days. Now, we said he's also definitely a Tmei Meis. Now, again, he can't immediately get a haircut for being a Tmei Meis. You have to have at least 7 days of growth. So then he waits another 7 days until day 14. Then he shaves for being a Tmei Meis. And then he starts his Nazirus over again. And that's 14 plus 30 is 44. So now, right, so we said Tamei Vadei, Muchot Vadei, if he's definitely a Tmei Meis and he's definitely a Mitzorah, so then Ochel Bekodshim Lachar Shmona Yom, he can eat kodshim after 8 days, right? Because he did the first Mitzorah shave, full body shave on day 1, and then 7 days later. So then from day 8, he could already eat kodshim. And after 44 days, he's done with his Nazirus. He could drink wine and become Tmei Meis. Wow. Okay. I think that we're done. Yeah. We're done with like all those numbers for now, but don't get your hopes up because it's still complicated. So now we go from one complicated sugya to another complicated sugya. Although I think it might not be as complicated, but it's complicated. Okay. What do I hear? Do I hear a helicopter? I might hear a helicopter. Alright, let's go weiter. No, it's not. It's a motorcycle. Okay, motorcycle man. New motorcycle man, come on. do your motorcycle, make a lot of noise and let us all know that you're riding your motorcycle. Let's go. Until he makes a lot of noise. Like when you have a motorcycle, so you make a lot of noise, and that means that everyone knows that you're not moving to another location. So until I hear that, he hasn't moved yet. All right. Well, I'm just going to go weiter, and when he lets us all know that he's moving, I'll make sure to share that with you, because that's what he wants us. He wants us to know that he's going somewhere. Okay, fine. So now, so I'll share that when he's going somewhere. I'll relay the message to you. Until then, Shalu. Now he's still just waiting. Okay, he's still just waiting too. Now also, Shalu Tamidav es Reb Shimon ben Yochai. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai's students asked him. He's still waiting. Nazir, what's he doing? Is he like jump starting his friend's motorcycle or something? What the heck is he doing? So Reb Shimon ben Yochai. So Reb Shimon ben Yochai's students asked him, Nazir Torah u'mitzora mahu sheigaleach tiglachas achas v'odlo l'chan u'l'chan. What if you have? So what if you have a guy? He's at the end of his Nazir, so he needs to get a haircut, right? Now, for whatever reason, he's also like at the end of his mitzora situation, and he also needs to do a full body shave because he's at the end of his mitzora. So can you, right? So can you just do one full body shave, and it will work, of course, for his mitzora requirement, and also when he gets up to his head and he's shaving his head, so it'll work as well for both for mitzora as well as for the end of his nazirus. So can you feed two birds with one seed? By the way, the motorcycle guy, he's just letting us know that he's just he's still chilling, but he's gonna go somewhere else shortly. Omer Lloyd, Eno Migalech. So Reb Shimon says that he can't he can't do that. He can't feed two birds with one seed. Omer Lo Lama. They said why? Omer Lloyd. So Reb Shimon says to them, motorcycle friend is still, he's waiting. Maybe there's traffic on Ohel Moshe Street. Alright. Excuse me, I'm going to go check this out because I'm very curious what's with our little motorcycle friend. Excuse me. Okay, upon further investigation, there is no traffic jam on Ohel Moshe Street. It seems like the motorcycle fellow has friends, and they're talking to each other before he continues on to wherever he's going. So now, so Reb Shimon says you can't feed two birds with one seed. You can't just maybe he's going somewhere. You can't just do one full body shave to count for both the Nazirus and the Mitzora. They said, how come? He says, look, if the sort of purpose of the shaving was the same, so beseder. Achshav Nazir lahaver Mitzora legadol. But the Mitzora is lahaver and the Nazir is lahaver, the Mitzora is legadol. What does that mean? Well, the Nazir, at the end of his experience, he needs to remove all of his hair. The Mitzora, on the other hand, when his tzaras goes away, so then the first time he's doing a full body shave, it's to grow. It's not to remove there, it's to grow there. It's to grow. He shaves it now to then continue growing it for the next 7 days, after which he's then going to remove it. But he's shaving now in order to grow for an additional 7 days. So Reb Shimon says to them, so let's read that again, right? So Amar Lo, and he said to them, if both shavings were either to grow or to remove, so fine, feed two birds with one seed. Achshav Nazir lahavir, the Nazir is removing his hair, whereas Mitzora legadol, the Mitzora is actually growing his hair for another 7 days. So now, but then they ask him, they say, so they say to him, well, fine, so maybe you can't feed two birds with one seed when we're talking about the Nazir who's removing his hair and the Mitzorah who's growing his hair, but the Mitzorah does a full body shave twice. The first time it's to grow, but the second time is to remove. So can't you feed two birds with one seed in terms of the second shaving of the Mitzorah and together with the shaving of the Nazir? Ve'omar loyen, and he says to them, Ilu zelifnei zrikas domim, v'zelifnei zrikas domim, yofe atem omrim. So Reb Shimon says, look, but at the same time, they're still different, because when it comes to, right, the Mitzorah has to bring korbanos, and the Nazir brings korbanos, and the Mitzorah brings korbanos. With the Nazir, he first offers the korbanos, as we've learned, right? At least the shlamim, and then they throw the blood on the mizbeach, and at that point he then shaves his head. Whereas with the that's by the Nazir. With the Mitzorah, however, it's fakert. First he does a full body shave, and only afterwards he offers his korbanos. Right? So again, if both the Nazir and the Mitzorah did their respective shavings before throwing the blood on the Mizbeach, Yofe Atem Omrim, fine. Ella Mitzorah lifnei zrikas damim, but the Mitzorah does his full body shave before offering the korbanos and throwing the blood on the Mizbeach. V'Nazir la'achar zrikas damim, whereas a Nazir first offers his at least his first korban, and then only after the zrikas damim does he shave his head. So therefore they're not comparable, and you can't feed two birds with one seed. So he said, okay, fine. So we haven't succeeded in feeding two birds with one seed in terms of the shaving of the Nazir and the shaving of the Mitzorah. However, but what about the tumah? Because the korban tumah, a Nazir tameh, he's shaving his hair, and it's to grow. And we said also tzaras, the first shaving, is to grow. So maybe you can feed two birds with one seed there. Omer loin, he said to them, Ilu zelifnei biasmayim v'zelifnei biasmayim yafatem omim. So Reb Shimon says, still you can't feed two birds with one seed, because if both the Nazir tameh and the Mitzorah went to the mikvah, what do we say? I'm sorry, if both of them did their shaving before going to the mikvah, so beseder, right? So again, if both the Mitzorah and the Nazir Tameh went to the mikvah before, got their haircuts before going to the mikvah, but a Nazir Tameh first goes to the mikvah and then he cuts his hair. Mitzorah lifnei biasmayim, whereas a Mitzorah first does a full body shave and only then goes to the mikvah, and therefore even right there too you cannot compare them. Fine. And so you can't feed two birds with one seed. Now, there's an alternative version for the dialogue, for the discussion of the past 10 lines or so. Omrulo, and in this version they said to him, right, because initially they had asked Reb Shimon, can the shaving of the count for both the Nazir and the Mitzorah? And he said, well, the Nazir is to remove and the Mitzorah is to grow. So Amrlo, so they said to him, Yofe Omar Chilo Tailelo Lime Sifro Uliniziruso. So I understand why you can't why shaving can't work for both the Nazirus and the first wait, what? Yofe, where am I? Amrlo, Yofe Omar Chilo Tailelo Lime Sifro Uliniziruso. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So, Amrlo Yafa Amar Shotaylo Limei Sifrul Nazir. So, okay, fine. It's a little confusing. No, so they said to him, okay, I understand your explanation, not because of Legadol and what was the other one? Legadol and Lehavir. No, it's not that. Because it says Sifro. Sifro is the, right, Chaluto is the first full body shave, and sifro is that then when he counts 7 days and then shaves the second time, that is the shaving for sifro. So they said to him, look, yes, you explained to us why the shaving can't work for a Nazir and for the second shaving of the Mitzorah, and that is because we said that the shaving of the Nazir is after Zrikas Damim, whereas the shaving of the Mitzorah is before Zrikas Damim. But V'sadlo limei chaluto v'tumaso. But as we had said a minute or two ago, right? Couldn't the shaving work for the first? Oh, the motorcycle guy I think is on the move. Hopefully, it's getting louder. Come on, get the heck out of here. Come on, seriously. Motorcycles, man. It's a big achrais to have a motorcycle. I wonder if I'm the only person who's a little stuck because of his motorcycle. Anyways, but but as we asked a few minutes ago, that when a Nazir Tameh who shaves his head, it's to then grow for another 30 days. And also the first full body shave of the Mitzorah is to then grow for another 7 days. So both the shaving for Tumah and the shaving for the first shaving of the Mitzorah is to grow. They're both to grow. Who? Oh, I think he's moving. So Amar Loen, so he said to them, Nazir tahor vehu mitzorah legadov zelahaver. So as we said earlier, that if you have a Nazir and the first, now he's on the move. Yeah, he's on the move now. Thank God. So if you have a Nazir who's tahor, so a Nazir, and you have a Mitzorah at the beginning, so the Nazir is removing his hair, and the first shaving of the Mitzorah is to grow. V'im Nazir tamei v'hu Mitzorah, and if you have a Nazir, and if you have a Nazir tamei, which is to grow, and you have Mitzorah at the beginning, which is to grow, but still it would be a problem because Zelefnei biasmaim v'zelachar biasmaim, in that a Nazir Tameh first goes to the mikveh and then shaves, whereas a Mitzorah first does the full body shave and then he goes to the mikveh. So even then you can't compare them. Tani Reb Chia taught Zelefnei biasmaim v'zelachar biasmaim. This is before going into the mikveh. This is after going to the mikveh. So that would be by a Nazir Tameh and a Mitzorah, the first shaving of a Mitzorah. This is before Zrikas Damim and after Zrikas Damim. That is a Nazir at Nazir Tahor and a Mitzorah for the second one, for the second full body shave of the Mitzorah, which both of them are laha'avir, but still the Mitzorah is different than the Nazir in that the Nazir gets his haircut after Zrikas Damim, whereas the Mitzorah removes his hair before Zrikas Damim. Okay. And now to finish up the 8th parak of Masechta Nazir, Esheteglachas Hanega V'chulei. Okay, so we had said that the full body shaving of Mitzorah only overrides Nazirus if it's for sure, but if it's a suffix then it doesn't, and that's why we said that he has to shave like 4 times at 30-day increments. So Rami Bar Chama asks, Hani Arba Tiglachios de Ka'omar, when we said that he has to shave 4 times, Mishum Mitzvah, is it a mitzvah that he has to shave 4 times, or Mishum Avur Seir Tuma, or is the point that, if he's a Tmei Meis, then we have to remove the Tamei hair, but it not necessarily with a razor. Like it's not a mitzvah to do with a razor, you just have to remove the Tamei hair. What's the difference? Lavure Binosha. Well, can you use some kind of, not a razor? Can you use like some kind of lotion or something that would remove the hair? Yomart Mishum Mitzvah, Lavure Binashalo. If you say it's a mitzvah to remove the hair 4 times, well then you have to use a razor. If you Yomart Mishum Avure Seir, but if it's just about Memele removing the hair, well then Seir Tuma, the Tamei hair, Afilu Sachya Nashanami, then you can use a depilatory or something that removes the hair, just with like a rub or like a lotion. So Amarava says Rava Tashma Kaminir Megalech Arba Tiglachios. Well, he shaves 4 times. And if Seir Tumah, if he was about just removing the Tameh hair, Afilu B'Shalosh, well then the 3rd time that he's doing it, which is for the Tmei Mace, so Nami Sagya Lei, then he should be able to just use a lotion or whatever the 3rd time, but it says he has to do it 4 times. Shmamina Mishum Mitzvah Shmamina, so clearly it's a mitzvah. It's not just about getting rid of the hair, it's about actually removing it as a mitzvah with a razor. Hajan Olach Shnei Nazirim. We'll come back to the parak of 2 Nazirs, although it wasn't so easy. Friends, that was Daf Samach from Masechta Nazir. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out.